for the sake of his unattainable dream lover, Victor Hawthorn. My fiancé of many years abandoned me to fend for myself in the countryside. 3 years later, he came to fetch me with his dream lover in tow. He said, 3 years should be enough time for even a dog to learn its lesson. I did this for your own good. Unless you change your ways, you'll never have a chance of becoming Mrs. Hawthorn. Everyone expected me to cling to him, weeping about the hardships and longing I'd endured for the past 3 years. But I simply smiled calmly. I'm sorry, Mr. Hawthorn, I said. I'm already married. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. I had just returned from the market, my hands still clutching the fresh vegetables I'd bought. From a distance, I could see over a dozen luxury cars parked outside the Hawthorn family's old manor. They were all models I hadn't seen in years. As I approached the Hawthorns' entrance, I could hear the clamorous voices from inside. It's been 3 years. I wonder what that young lady looks like now. Has she turned into a country bumpkin? What kind of lady is she anyway? She's just an orphan staying with the Hawthorns. Does she still think she's a rich heiress? Indeed, she has no blood relation to the Hawthorns. It's only their kindness. Otherwise, she'd be worse off than a beggar. Well, Ethel was young and naive back then. I'm sure after these 3 years, she must have realized her mistakes. A gentle female voice interrupted the unpleasant comments, bringing a moment of silence to the courtyard. I vaguely recognized that voice. It was Irene's, Victor's beloved sweetheart. 3 years ago, after her father passed away in a car accident, Victor had brought her to live with the Hawthorns, while I was sent to the countryside. When I was sent away, he said, Irene has already lost her family. How can you speak so cruelly? She's always been so kind to you. Do you have no conscience? When you learn to behave and mature, that's when I'll let you come back. Otherwise, you'll stay there for the rest of your life. I'm doing this for your own good. Unless you change your ways, don't ever expect to become Mrs. Hawthorn. For my own good? How nice that sounds. For my own good, he still took Irene's side in that situation. For my own good, he abandoned me in the countryside without a word. He knew very well that my emotions were on the verge of collapse at that time. Hearing these words now, I find them nothing but ironic. It's also thanks to Irene's kindness that she didn't hold it against her. If it were me, I would definitely send her to prison for a few years. Irene spoke softly. Ethel is still part of the Hawthorn family after all. As she finished, her eyes reddened slightly. Irene, don't be upset. That fool has already been punished. What do you think her expression will be when she sees us later? That's obvious. She'll probably burst into tears and beg Victor to take her back. Victor snorted coldly. It's been 3 years. Even a dog would have learned its lesson by now. If not, then she can continue to be reformed here. A chorus of agreement rose from the surrounding crowd. I rather hope she hasn't learned her lesson. That way, I'll never have to see her again. Yes, her shameless behavior is just disgusting to look at. But, don't you two still have an engagement? A voice asked, tinged with confusion. Hearing this, Irene turned her head towards Victor, her eyes full of expectation. The engagement, we'll see how she behaves, Victor replied. Upon hearing Victor's words, Irene looked away, a hint of disappointment in her eyes. At this point, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I didn't bother to stifle my laughter. The sound, carried by the rising breeze, drifted into the courtyard, startling the group inside like a flock of scattered birds. The person closest to the door turned to look at me, exclaiming in surprise and confusion. Ethel Green? His shout attracted the attention of everyone in the small courtyard. Is that really Ethel Green? How is that possible? Shouldn't she have turned into a country bumpkin by now? I could hear their discussions, and I understood why they were so shocked. In their imagination, after being sent to the countryside for 3 years, I should have become a rough and weary village girl. But that wasn't the case at all. I was wearing an elegant long dress with a thin cardigan, and had a camera hanging around my neck. My hair and face were well maintained, and I even had a nude manicure. There wasn't a hint of a village girl about me. Victor's gaze slowly fell on me, and he too seemed surprised. Ethel Green, he called my name, his tone distant. It was completely different from how he spoke to Irene. In my memories, I had once been upset about this, even cried and made a fuss. But not anymore. Mr. Hawthorn, I greeted him politely, switching my shopping basket to the other hand. Hearing my words, Victor frowned slightly. It's only been 3 years, is there a need to be so formal? I'm your fiancé, is this how you speak to me? It seems the time away wasn't long enough. You haven't learned your lesson. If you continue like this, I really will break off our engagement. I gave him a cool glance. What made him think that after 3 years, I would still have feelings for him? When I was 10, I became an orphan. Victor's grandfather took me into the Hawthorn family and announced my engagement to Victor on the spot. From that moment, I knew I would marry Victor. So, basking in his kindness, I allowed myself to fall in love with him bit by bit. When our feelings were at their strongest, he even said he loved me. He also said he would marry me when I was of age. Until Irene was brought to the Hawthorn house, and everything changed. I watched as the affection that belonged to me was slowly taken away. Saw his unconditional bias towards her. I cried, I made a fuss, I even deliberately picked fights with Irene. Without exception, all I got in return was blame and anger. Later, Irene's necklace went missing. Victor immediately came to me, demanding answers. Although I didn't like Irene, I wasn't so despicable as to steal someone else's belongings. Moreover, during that time, the cat I had raised for 8 years was ill and in the veterinary hospital. That cat was a birthday gift from Victor. To take care of it, I had rented a flat near the vet hospital, and hadn't been back to the Hawthorn house for a long time. I held my head high as I faced Victor's accusations. But to my surprise, her necklace was found in one of my old coats that I hadn't worn in ages. Victor hit me, and he broke the only keepsake I had from my parents. Looking at the bracelet shattered into pieces on the ground, I lunged at Victor like a madwoman. In the chaos, Irene fell down the stairs. After that, Victor sent me to the countryside. And my cat didn't make it through that summer. Seeing my silence, Victor's expression grew impatient. Just as he was about to lash out, I raised my hand, showing the ring. I'm sorry, Mr. Hawthorn. I'm already married. Victor's frown deepened upon hearing this. Irene Winchester stepped forward, linking her arm with Victor's, and looked at me with the kind of gaze one might give a petulant child. Ethel, you mustn't lie, you know. I heard from Victor that he's cancelled your bank card. So these clothes. You're young, dear. Don't let yourself be fooled by unsavory characters. At her words, Victor finally turned his attention to my attire. His gaze growing colder by the second. He was likely recalling how he'd cut off all my financial resources. In their eyes, without the Hawthorn family's money, I wasn't worthy of wearing such nice clothes. His friends all looked at me mockingly. Someone spoke up. Ethel, don't tell me you've become someone's mistress? In this backwater village. The one keeping you must be some old man who couldn't find a wife. Victor's face instantly darkened, looking at me with fury. Ethel Green, have you no shame? It's one thing if you don't care about your own reputation. But don't drag the Hawthorn family name through the mud. Judging by his reaction, he clearly thought I had debased myself and become someone's mistress. But, Victor, how many years have we known each other? Even if you don't like me, shouldn't you know my character by now? In your eyes, am I really the type of person who would become someone's mistress for money? I looked around coldly and said, I should be asking if you lot have any shame. Did you come all this way just to make a scene? I'm not like you useless lot. I don't need to rely on a man or the Hawthorn family. I can do perfectly well on my own. Victor seemed taken aback by my retort, pausing for a moment. He sneered, on your own? You? Ethel Green, don't overestimate yourself. I know what you're up to. You're just trying to get my attention, aren't you? Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. This man doesn't seem to understand human language, does he? Get his attention? As if he's worthy. I grabbed an egg from the basket and threw it at him. Caught off guard, Victor ended up with egg dripping down his face. "Oh, Victor!" Irene cried out in shock. Victor closed his eyes briefly, wiping away the egg with his hand, then raised his arm towards me. I quickly stepped back, scoffing. "What now, Mr. Hawthorn? Going to hit me again?" Victor paused, taking a deep breath. "Ethel Green, you've really done it now. If this is how you want it, then stay here for the rest of your life." With that, he stormed off. The main character having left. The other hangers-on who had come to watch the drama naturally followed suit. Irene was the last to leave. As she passed by me, she said softly, "Thank you, Ethel. If it weren't for you, Victor wouldn't have seen how good I am." I didn't respond. "What you're bragging about is precisely the rubbish I've long since discarded. If you like picking up trash, then by all means, take it." After everyone left, I picked up the groceries and walked towards the house opposite the Hawthorns. Inside, the man was in the middle of a conference call. Seeing me come in, he muted the call and smiled as he took the shopping basket from my hands. "I told you to wait for me to finish so we could go together." "Are you tired?" he asked. I shook my head and followed him into the kitchen. I bought groceries and took some photos for work. "You cook, it's fair," I replied. He suddenly stopped, and I bumped into him, caught off guard. He turned around, bent down, and pinched my nose. "You little rascal, when have you ever cooked in this house? I heard a commotion outside earlier." Did something happen? Remembering what had transpired, I frowned. Victor came by, said he wanted to take me back. I gave him a piece of my mind. Hearing this, he furrowed his brow. "That boy Victor, it's good you set him straight. He needs to learn his place." I looked at him, raising an eyebrow. "Is that all?" He smiled softly, suddenly lifting me up and carrying me towards the bedroom. "I know about your history with him. Though I'm a bit jealous, you're here with me now, and that's what matters most." As he spoke, his lips were already approaching mine. His kiss was as passionate as fire, melting me bit by bit, making me lose myself in it. I saw Victor again a month later. At Joanna's engagement party. She's my best friend. And she came all the way to the countryside to invite me to her engagement. Unable to resist her pleading, I reluctantly agreed. Seeing Victor and Irene again was expected. As soon as Joanna saw them, she pulled me behind her like a mother hen protecting her chick, leaving Walter to greet them. Walter is her fiancé and also Victor's friend. She, on the other hand, dragged me to a corner. "Ethel, I'm so sorry. I forgot they would be here too." I smiled and shook my head. I had spent so many years with the Hawthorns, many of our social circles overlapped. It was normal for them to be here. "It's all right, I don't care anymore," I reassured her. "After all, I'm married now." Joanna was shocked, looking at me in disbelief. "You're married? When did this happen? How come I didn't know?" 6 months ago." Joanna stared at me for a while, then suddenly burst into laughter. "You little minx, I knew it. Someone as wonderful as you couldn't possibly pine after a crooked tree like Victor forever. That's more like it. We don't need someone like Victor Hawthorn." As she laughed, her eyes suddenly welled up with tears. I knew she was happy for me. When Irene first appeared, she had constantly advised me. But I couldn't let go. I was determined to hit that wall head-on. Now, I've moved on. After she finished crying, she glared at me. "So why didn't you bring your husband for me to meet? Don't you consider me your best friend?" "He's on a business trip," I smiled apologetically. "He won't be back until tonight. Next time, I'll bring him along when we invite you for dinner." Joanna nodded in satisfaction. Suddenly, she grabbed my hand and walked to the center of the crowd, taking the microphone and drawing everyone's attention. With a radiant smile, she said, "Everyone, I have more good news to announce today." She pulled me to her side and introduced me solemnly. "This is my best friend, Ethel Green. She's married. Let's all congratulate her." As her words faded, the venue fell silent. Most of the guests at this engagement party were from their social circle. Many knew that Victor Hawthorn, the eldest son of the Hawthorn family, had a fiancée named Ethel Green. But they hadn't heard anything about Victor getting married. Joanna, always one to stir things up, looked around and asked with a smile, "What's wrong? Aren't you happy that my best friend is married?" Everyone snapped out of their daze and started responding with smiles. "Of course we're happy. Congratulations. Congratulations, wishing you a lifetime of happiness and many children." Amidst the chorus of well wishes, I maintained a soft smile and nodded. It was at this moment that Irene approached me. She held a glass of wine, looking at me with concern. "Ethel, you've been living in the countryside for the past 2 years. Now you're suddenly married. Were you tricked by some bad people there? I know you're still angry about Victor sending you to the countryside. But he did it for your own good. You're young, please don't make rash decisions out of anger. Marriage is a big deal, you must be careful." "Irene, aren't you overstepping? Even if I married a pig, it's none of your business," I interrupted her. "I really dislike her. She clearly doesn't like me, yet always pretends to care about me. It was the same when I was living with the Hawthorns. Gradually, I became disliked by everyone in the Hawthorn household, while she became known as the understanding one. I've seen this act too many times, it's just tiresome now." Interrupted by me, Irene's eyes immediately welled up with tears. And Victor, right on cue, walked over. He looked at me for a long while before finally speaking. "Ethel Green, know your limits." After the party ended, I was standing alone by the roadside waiting for a cab. Victor's car pulled up in front of me, his expression cold. "Get in." I shook my head. "No need, my husband will come to pick me up." Hearing this, Victor scoffed. "Ethel Green, how long are you going to keep up this act? It's one thing to fool others, but everyone in City Elm knows you're so in love with me you'd die for me. Who would want to marry someone like you? Get in the car now, and I'll let your unauthorized return to City Elm slide." Victor's tone was harsh as he spoke. Seeing that I still stood motionless, his brows furrowed, and a look of disgust flashed across his face. "Don't tell me you've really become someone's mistress? Who would have such poor taste?" Hearing him say this, I smiled faintly. "Mr. Hawthorn, have you ever been kept as someone's lover? Otherwise, why would you assume everyone else is? Only those with dirty minds see filth in others." Victor's face contorted as if he'd swallowed a fly upon hearing this. He glared at me fiercely. "Ethel Green, what's happened to you?" Looking at his pained expression, one might think he was genuinely heartbroken. But I haven't changed at all. I've always been sharp-tongued since childhood, for which my mum scolded me many times. Later, when I went to live with the Hawthorns, my personality didn't change. I remember the first time I talked back to someone at the Hawthorn house. Victor was laughing on the side. He said girls should be fierce, so they won't get bullied. But then Irene appeared, and he started complaining that I wasn't elegant or gentle enough. So I suppressed all my sharp edges. Now, I'm no longer willing to change for him. Irene had been sitting quietly in the passenger seat, listening to Victor and me talk. Seeing Victor's expression, a hint of amusement flashed in her eyes. Then, she kindly advised, "Ethel, how can you speak to Victor like that? He's only looking out for you." "Shut up." I rolled my eyes, looking at her in exasperation. "No one asked for your opinion. This is between Victor and me. What's it got to do with you?" Irene was taken aback, her expression awkward. Just then, a pink sports car pulled up behind. Without even glancing at the two of them, I strode over and got into the sports car. Amidst the roar of the engine, I could still hear Victor's angry shouts. That night, I received a call from an unknown number. I answered to find it was Dean Marshall, Victor's good friend. "Ethel, what are you up to?" I turned off the music. "Prenatal education." There was a brief pause on the other end, then a confused question. "Prenatal education, as in what I think it means?" I nodded. Probably. "Stop joking around. You and Victor haven't seen each other in so long, how could you be pregnant?" I replied calmly, "The child isn't his." Dean raised his voice. "No way, you're really married and pregnant?" I asked in return, What, I'm not allowed to get married and have a baby? It's not that. It's just that you and Victor have been engaged for so long, and you've always loved him. How could you suddenly be married? You must be lying, right? Hearing this, I laughed. Why does everyone think I'm lying? Marriage is a big deal. How could I use something like this to deceive people? I really am married, I paused. I'll invite you to attend when we hold the wedding ceremony. As soon as I finished speaking, there was a commotion on the other end. Then the call disconnected. I didn't think much of it. Among Victor's friends, 9 out of 10 thought I wasn't good enough for him. Even when Victor was treating me the best. After Irene appeared, they looked down on me even more. I've heard them badmouthing me many times. Shortly after, another call came through. It was from Victor Hawthorn. I knew it as soon as I saw the caller ID. Before I could even speak after answering, the voice on the other end started talking. Ethel Green, go and get rid of that baby. I found it somewhat amusing. Are you all right? I asked. Victor's voice grew even angrier. Ethel Green, I said go and get rid of that baby. His voice was so loud that it could be heard from afar even without the speakerphone on. I moved the phone away from my ear and said coldly, if you have nothing else to say, I'm hanging up. Did you not understand what I just said? Where the hell are you right now? Having known Victor for so many years, I had seen him lose his temper many times. So hearing his angry shouts now left me completely unfazed. The voice on the other end of the phone continued to press for answers. Suddenly, someone snatched the phone from behind me. Then, I heard Gavin's deep, magnetic voice. Ethel needs to rest now. We can discuss anything else another day. With that, he hung up the phone before the person on the other end could react. I turned my head and found myself looking into a pair of smiling eyes. He picked me up by the waist, and I wrapped my arms around his neck. I could still smell the shower gel on him, my favorite peach scent. I nuzzled him gently, and his amused voice sounded above my head. Looks like I'll have to try harder, otherwise your prenatal education will go to waste. I laughed too, I was just talking nonsense. Gavin Reed lowered his head to kiss my lips, mumbling, it won't be nonsense for long. 3 days later, I returned to the Hawthorn family home. Gavin and I went to see grandfather Hawthorn together. He was the one who had brought me into the Hawthorn family years ago. And he had always loved me like his own granddaughter. However, his health had deteriorated significantly in recent years. And he had been recuperating abroad most of the time. This time, he had returned to the country for his 80th birthday celebration. And I heard that he would be going back abroad to continue his treatment after the party. After meeting with grandfather Hawthorn, Gavin received a phone call and went to the back garden. I stood in a corner waiting for him. I thought you wouldn't come back. Hearing this, I turned to look at Victor, who had somehow appeared behind me. He looked at me with a gloomy expression. Ignoring his demeanor, I smiled and said, of course I'd come back for grandfather's birthday. And to introduce my husband to him as well. Victor stared at me coldly. What, got some new tricks up your sleeve? Have you been spending all these years in the countryside, thinking about how to provoke me when you return? Let me tell you, don't even dream about it. I will never marry you. I'm going to tell grandfather to cancel our engagement right away. At this point, he glanced at my stomach. You can take that bastard child and get out of the Hawthorn family. I never want to see you again. As soon as he finished speaking, a smooth, gentle voice came from behind. Oh. Young Mr. Hawthorn seems to have quite the authority. I didn't realize you were the one making decisions for the Hawthorn family now. Victor's body stiffened, and he turned to look at the newcomer. Uncle Gavin. Gavin walked to my side, held my hand, and looked at his nephew. I dare not claim to be your uncle when you're bold enough to drive your aunt away. Victor's face turned pale. His gaze fixed on our joined hands, and he began to stammer. You're saying she's my aunt. Ethel Green, and you? Gavin gave him a cool glance, his voice turning a bit colder. She's your aunt, and you're addressing her so casually by name? Victor's face turned ashen. However, he quickly regained his composure. During the subsequent family dinner, he maintained a normal demeanor throughout, as if everything that had just happened hadn't affected him at all. The celebration dinner was over. Gavin went to get the car, while I stood at the entrance waiting for him. During this brief interlude, Victor suddenly appeared and pulled me to a secluded corner. He stared at me with cold eyes and said through gritted teeth, "Ethel Green, you did this on purpose, didn't you? You and Uncle Gavin deliberately put on a show for me, didn't you?" I looked at him and replied, "You're overthinking. If it were an act, we wouldn't have come here together." After all, due to the divorce of Victor's parents years ago, the two families had a falling out. If it weren't for me, Gavin wouldn't have come here voluntarily. Moreover, Grandfather Hawthorn had always been genuinely kind to me. I wouldn't deceive him no matter what. Victor had always known these things, but now he was blinded by anger. He let out a cold laugh. "Then you're doing this to get revenge on me, aren't you? Revenge for when I left you in the countryside for Irene. Ethel Green, I told you before, as long as you learn to behave, you would become Mrs. Hawthorn. What are you doing now?" Looking at his bloodshot eyes, I suddenly remembered the day Irene first arrived at the Hawthorn house. Victor had promised me that even 1,000 Irenes couldn't compare to me. He said I would always be his little princess, the one he loved most. But later, he repeatedly criticized me for Irene's sake, and even hit me in the end. I still remember the crisp sound of the jade bracelet shattering on the ground, just like my heart breaking into countless pieces. I shifted my gaze towards the vibrantly blooming flowers in the distance. "Victor, from the moment you shielded Irene behind you, you should have known that we had no future. I, Ethel Green, am not a magnanimous person. I can't let bygones be bygones. So, like that shattered jade bracelet, we can never go back to how we were. Now I'm married to Gavin, and you have Irene by your side. Let's each find our own happiness." A flicker of complexity crossed Victor's face. After a moment of silence, he said, "Ethel Green, how can you be so cold-hearted? I do care about you, really. I just felt sorry for Irene because she lost both her parents." His voice trembled slightly, as if he was trying hard to control his emotions. Hearing this, I could only smile sarcastically. Irene was pitiful because she lost her parents, but what about me? I lost my parents when I was 5. And my beloved grandfather, who was all I had left, passed away when I was 10. Wasn't I pitiful too? How biased must one be to say such things? If he truly cared about me, how could he have abandoned me in the countryside for 3 years without a word? I looked at him and asked softly, "Victor, do you remember why I came to the Hawthorn family in the first place?" Victor's body stiffened, and his face turned pale. He opened his mouth, wanting to explain, but in the end, he couldn't say anything. I didn't notice his expression. I just rolled up my sleeve to show him the scars on my arm. "You probably don't know, but when you first sent me away to the countryside, I developed depression and attempted suicide several times. Many times, I thought I wouldn't make it. But fortunately, I pulled through, and I met someone who truly loves me." Just then, headlights flashed in the distance. It was Gavin. "He's here, I have to go." He remained silent, head bowed. I broke free from his tight grip on my arm and turned to leave. It wasn't until the car had driven far away that I received a message from Victor. "Ethel Green, you once said you would only marry me in this lifetime." Yes, I did say that. When I loved Victor the most. At that time, I thought I would definitely marry Victor in the future. I thought Victor would only love me for his entire life. So I made that promise with utmost sincerity. But now, I've broken my word. Because you turned away first, Victor. I didn't reply to the message, casually tossing my phone onto the back seat. Gavin glanced at me from the corner of his eye and asked, "Was that Victor?" I nodded slightly, That lad has really been out of line these past few years. Thinking everything belongs to him. He'll come to his senses eventually." Hearing this, I turned to him with a smile. "What, aren't you jealous? This guy isn't usually so generous." He had previously insisted I throw away everything I brought from the Hawthorn house to the countryside. Gavin didn't say anything, but quickly found a secluded spot to park the car. As he nibbled on my lips, he growled, It's because I love you that I have to accept everything about your past. Besides, you're my wife now, and I won't let you slip away." I smiled and kissed him back. Not only would he not let me go, but I wouldn't let him go either. After that day, I never saw Victor again. Joanna invited me out for shopping, and she couldn't stop criticizing Victor as we walked. "Victor is just a nutter, not quite right in the head," she said. Walter told me that on the night of my engagement party. He suddenly trashed the pub for no reason. Anyone who didn't know better might think he had a secret crush on me. She couldn't help but laugh as she said this. After her laughter subsided, she continued, "But it's been ages since anyone's seen Victor." The other day, Irene was even asking Walter if he'd spotted him anywhere. "Where on earth do you think he's gone off to?" she asked. I ran my fingers along a rack of clothes. "Who knows?" I replied. That evening, I found myself cornered at my front door. Victor, reeking of alcohol, was blocking my way. "Ethel Green, I had a nightmare yesterday. I dreamed you got married to my uncle." "Tell me it's not true, is it? You promised you'd marry me, you said you'd only ever marry me. How could you possibly marry someone else?" I looked at him and took out my phone to call Gavin. Just as the call connected, he suddenly snatched the phone away and smashed it on the ground. His eyes were bloodshot as he demanded, "Tell me. Say you only love me, say you'll only marry me. Say it! Tell me that you and Gavin are both lying, that it's all fake, right?" He slowly sank to his knees in front of me, his tone becoming pitiful, as if begging. This was a side of Victor Hawthorn I had never seen before. The way he was acting, it was as if he truly loved me. In the past, I would have certainly embraced him and burst into tears. But now, times had changed. I looked down at him, my tone indifferent. "Victor, if you want to play the role of the devoted lover, please go find Irene." "I don't need it," I said. He kept his head lowered, so I couldn't see his expression. After a long while, he finally spoke slowly. "Ethel Green, I know I was wrong. I spent the last few days in the countryside, visiting all the places you lived in those 3 years. And I met the therapist you saw back then. I know I was wrong now. If possible, can you give me a chance to make up for all the hurt I've caused you over the years? I can take you somewhere no one knows us, just the two of us together. I'll make you the happiest woman in the world. Please, Ethel?" Hearing him call me Ethel made me feel a bit dazed. Ever since Irene appeared, he had stopped calling me Ethel, always using my full name instead. Now he was calling me Ethel again, but I felt no joy at all. "No," I said. "It's over between us, just like that jade bracelet of mine that shattered long ago." With that, I tried to step past him to leave. He grabbed my hand, saying nothing, but I could feel his hand trembling slightly. I ignored it, only smiling slowly as I saw someone walking towards me. Gavin approached with a stern face, first prying off the hand gripping my arm. Then, he pulled the man on the ground to his feet. One punch after another, each blow landing hard. He only stopped once the man's face was bruised and swollen. "Victor, I'm letting you off this time because you're my nephew," Gavin said. "But don't let me see you again, and don't come looking for my wife. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." With that, he wiped his hands clean and came over to take my hand as we walked home. Meanwhile, Victor lay on the ground like a discarded rag, motionless. That day, Gavin exhausted me for hours. Victor hadn't come to see me again since then. Our next encounter was at a conference. He looked gaunt, with Irene by his side. I politely nodded to them, then went to find my seat. As I left, I could feel his gaze lingering on me. During the break, Irene approached me. "Ethel, since you're already married to Victor's uncle, could you please stay away from Victor? Stop trying to get close to him, will you? Do you know how he's been these past few days? He nearly lost his life because of you." I looked up and met her eyes. "Still so presumptuous, so annoying." I said coldly, "Miss Winchester, whatever he does is none of my business. Besides, I was invited to this conference by the organizers. I don't have the power to influence their decisions. This conference was organized by a government department. and attendees were people who had made contributions in various fields. As long as Irene wasn't a fool, she should know I couldn't have been invited here on a whim. Hearing this, her expression faltered, clearly realizing this fact. She hesitated for a moment, wanting to continue. But I'm not Victor, I won't indulge her. I continued directly. Moreover, I'm Victor's aunt by marriage. If you're his friend, that makes me your elder as well. Hasn't anyone taught you how to speak to your elders? Her face froze at my words. She knew, she just wasn't used to it. Used to looking down on me, which is why she spoke so recklessly. She bit her lip, hesitating for a long time, but still couldn't bring herself to call me aunt. And seeing my smile, she gritted her teeth and said, "Ethel Green, what are you so proud of? You're only here because of Gavin Reed, it's nothing special. Don't think I don't know, you only married Gavin because he's richer, didn't you?" I didn't respond, just looked behind her. Victor, perfect timing. Please take her away. Irene startled, turning to see Victor with a grim expression behind her. She panicked, about to explain. But before she could speak, Victor roughly pulled her towards the exit. Seeing her leave, I felt a bit disappointed that she wouldn't see me being invited on stage as an outstanding representative. So, she also wouldn't know that I didn't need to rely on a man. I was my own support. In the second half of the conference, I was invited by the organizers to give a speech. From the moment I stood up, I could feel a gaze fixed on me, all the way until I reached the podium. I didn't search for that gaze, but began my speech. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ethel Green. As I finished, the hall erupted in applause. I smiled gently at the audience and inadvertently made eye contact with Victor. His eyes held something I'd never seen before: amazement, admiration. I pretended not to notice and quietly turned away. As the conference ended, Victor walked against the crowd to stand before me. He looked at me for a long time before finally speaking. "Ethel, I had no idea you'd become so impressive." I looked at him. "I have you to thank for that. 3 years ago, I was sent to the countryside, alone and helpless. In the first year, I suffered from depression and even attempted suicide. During my last hospital stay due to a suicide attempt, the patient next to me loved making videos. She said she wanted to record all the beautiful things in the world, so her time here wouldn't be in vain. At that moment, I suddenly had an epiphany and started learning to record the beauty around me through videos. Then, through videos, I learned about many beautiful traditional crafts. They too were struggling not to be forgotten, struggling to make the most of their remaining vitality. Just like me, as I was trying to find meaning in my future. So, traditional crafts began appearing in my videos. At first, I simply hoped they wouldn't be forgotten, because being forgotten meant disappearing. Unexpectedly, the videos gained a lot of attention, and I became a minor video blogger. A year later, I met Gavin. He was ill and had returned to the countryside to recuperate. At the time, I was still living in the Hawthorn family's old house, filming daily content. While filming a heavy snowfall, he suddenly appeared in front of my camera. Noticing my lens, not only did he not shy away, but he smiled. He said, "You must be the video blogger Ethel. I'm Gavin Reed, I've wanted to meet you for a long time." Later, he accompanied me as I traveled far and wide, experiencing many traditional crafts. During a video about making a traditional headdress, he proposed to me. Thinking back, I smiled slightly. Victor seemed lost in thought as he gazed at my smile. His expression was a mixture of nostalgia and sadness. I didn't know what he was thinking about, nor did I want to. I tucked my wind-tousled hair behind my ear, ready to leave. As I was about to walk past him, he suddenly extended his hand in front of me. I instinctively took a step back, only then noticing what he held. It was a jade bracelet. It looked remarkably similar to the one my parents had left me. "This bracelet is to make amends," he said. "Don't you think it looks just like yours?" His voice held a note of anticipation. But my attention wasn't on the bracelet. It was on the scar on his wrist. A scar very much like my own. Noticing my gaze, he gave a bitter smile. I suppose there's at least one thing we have in common. I looked up at him. Then, I sighed. Victor, you should know. What we had ended 3 years ago. Everything you're doing now is just causing me trouble. Whether you believe it or not, I'm married now. So please, stop appearing in front of me, all right? With each sentence I spoke, Victor's face grew paler. When I finished, I didn't look at him, just brushed past him. Behind me, I heard the sound of the jade bracelet hitting the ground, followed by muffled sobs. After that day, I truly never saw Victor again. Even when I visited grandfather Hawthorn, I never encountered him. Even Irene had disappeared. Later, I learned that Irene had moved out of the Hawthorn house at Victor's request. Moreover, Victor had cut off all contact with Irene. Irene had been searching everywhere for Victor during this time. But he consistently avoided her. Because of this, Irene had come to see me a few times. However, each time she appeared, someone would forcibly take her away within minutes. I asked Gavin about it, but it wasn't his doing. I thought life would continue like this. But I never imagined I'd hear news about Victor in such a manner. His friend called me, his voice filled with anger. They said that for the past 6 months, Victor had been drinking heavily, rarely sober. But 2 nights ago, he woke up in the middle of the night, insisting on finding me. He ended up in a car accident. They managed to save him. But his legs were severely injured. He might never walk again. We all tried to stop him, but still couldn't. Dean said hoarsely, he was crying, saying tomorrow is your birthday. He's missed it for 3 years, and he couldn't miss it again this year. He was crying so bitterly, it broke our hearts to see him like that. If we had known, we would never have let him go through with it. Ethel, he did all this for you. Leaning against Gavin's chest, I touched my belly and silently hung up the phone. Gavin kissed the top of my head, comforting me. This isn't your fault. I knew that. It just felt absurd. When someone is by your side, you don't cherish them. When they're gone, why pretend to be deeply in love? Belated deep affection is more humble than grass. I've always understood this principle. So, I never went to see him, not even once. 2 weeks later, in the dead of night, I received a message. It was from Victor. Ethel, I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Because our story had already reached its end long ago. From now on, we'd have nothing to do with each other, in any season.